Hello everybody, my name is Joe Campmier and this is my AEP 853 Module 1. Let's start with some introductions. Like I said, my name is Joe Campmier. I live in Parsons, Kansas, where I was born and raised, aside from 4 years in the Air Force, where I was a mechanic I was a crew chief on C-130s and B-52s. I live with my wife, Jennifer, and my son, Milo, in my childhood home that I purchased from my parents. Um, we like to play video games and board games, arts, crafts, science experiment, hanging out outside, playing with our pets. Currently, I am a 6th through 8th grade electives teacher at Parsons Middle School. I teach graphic productions, technology, and communications. Next year, I'll be taking over the Family and Consumer Science Lab as well and dropping a couple of those other preps. I received my BS in education from Newman University and my master's in instructional technology from Fort Hays. This summer, I've decided to begin coursework towards a master's in administration. It's nice to meet everybody. I'm really excited to get started. On to my article summaries. 7 ways to create an inclusive classroom environment. The Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development points to the numerous benefits of an inclusive school community. The article goes on to say that schools should not simply wait for their areas to become more diversified, but should work to create an inclusive environment right now with 7 different methods. Those are academic support, flexible pacing, reading specialists, and tutoring should be available. Preparing teachers, training teachers in the ideas of privilege and oppression to help foster a more inclusive classroom. Curriculum, including ideas like privilege and oppression into the curriculum, will help students better understand other cultures they are exposed to. Integrate student bodies, federal and state incentives for schools who integrate student bodies. Adjust ranking calculations, adjust evaluation measurements, make evaluation unbiased. Create a respectful school community. Schools should hire people to reflect their own diversity within the school. Create a space for discussion. Create a space in which students can ask questions and seek information on privilege and oppression. Inclusive leadership in education. This is from Childhood Education International. Inclusive education that was once focused specifically on special education has been reformed as a social justice oriented approach engineered to support all stakeholders in their rights to appropriate education. Inclusive leaders are key to promoting inclusive beliefs and practices into their school systems. Inclusive leaders must appreciate diversity, encourage community participation, and must be able to listen to and create consensus with a diverse group of stakeholders. Traits of inclusive leaders include visible commitment, humility, awareness of bias, curiosity about others, cultural intelligence, and effective collaboration. Uh, Applications of inclusive leaders: they practice self-awareness, live a shared vision, build relationships, and create and manage change. And challenges to inclusive leadership: inconsistent support, developed culturally aware teachers, standardized testing, community healthcare, finances, infrastructure, and teacher quality. Here are 10 reasons for inclusive schools. All children have equal access to education. All children learn alongside their same age peers. The focus of education is on the child's abilities, not disabilities. Children become accepting and understanding of one another's abilities, talents, personalities, and needs. Meaningful relationships and friends develop as students spend quality time with one another. Students develop confidence in their ability to interact with one another and the world around them. Teachers in inclusive schools are highly trained and skilled at delivering appropriate student-centered curriculum through different activities according to ability level. In addition to the classroom teacher, students with disabilities are supported by special education teachers, paraprofessionals, and specialists such as speech language therapists. Various resources and assistive technologies are available to students in inclusive schools in an effort to reach and teach all learners. Inclusive schools value inputs and participation from the whole community, not just the students. Everyone is welcome. And that, of course, was 10 reasons for inclusive schools from Reading Rockets. What is inclusive education and how can you implement it? This is an article from futurelearn.com. The main idea is that all students should be treated fairly and have equal opportunities. Diversity should be celebrated. This access is combated by issues like discrimination. Types of inclusive education include full inclusion, where all students are in the main classroom, partial inclusion, where additional support outside the classroom, like pull-out time, and mainstreaming, where they're in a self-contained classroom with the chance to integrate with the general classroom, which I feel like I've seen students in all these different formats of their school day. Inclusive teaching and learning are equal rights to education. Classrooms should be made of students with mixed abilities, differentiation for each student's needs, and accessible environments. I feel like when I was in elementary school, we did a lot of this. I'd have like 7 different morning works for 7 different levels of kids, all in one fourth grade classroom. Inclusive teaching promotes student confidence, improved communication skills, and quality of education. What are the roles of principals in successful inclusive schools? Uh, this is from inclusiveschools.org. I really like looking into the roles of administrators in these inclusive schools and how you can be more inclusive as an administrator. I thought those articles were really, really interesting. So, 10 roles of a principal in a successfully inclusive school. Review aspects of inclusion, clearly define inclusion. State your support, create a clear vision for the staff. Assign special education staff to grade level or department teams to share ownership of all the students throughout the school, because a lot of times you see special education teachers, well, that's their kid and these are my kids, but that's not how it should be. Provide planning for teaching times, common planning times, in order to collaborate with your grade level team or your special education teachers. Ensure access to the general curriculum. All students should be given high expectations. Communicate the use of accommodations as expected. Accommodations have a huge impact on student learning and success. Convene meetings to review individual student needs. This mitigates over or under supporting a student. Create a schedule of instruction and professional supports. Assistance can be well planned for the year. Include students and parents in creating authentic, inclusive school social interactions can be neglected if not fostered. Provide data and snapshots to celebrate your success, reward and celebrate our accomplishments. The inclusive school. This is from greatschools.org. Um, the main idea of McIntyre's article is that all students should have access to everything schools have to offer. Not only should students have the same access, but they should all feel fully supported and pushed to pursue that access. Beyond mainstream includes the process of looking at and understanding every student's needs and differentiating in a way that all students have access or are encouraged to participate in several different ways in order to achieve success. Diversity and equity can contribute to the success of an inclusive school by giving diverse stakeholders empowering platforms where their voice can be heard. Developing an inclusive classroom culture. This is from inclusive.org. 4 key strategies for an inclusive classroom. Value what each student brings. Offer multiple ways for each student to achieve success. Focus on reinforcing strengths. Establish a respectful class climate. Learn about students' lives and strengths in order to set high standards and be able to properly support them to achieve. Plan for everyone to participate and achieve. Differentiate for the whole class. Be flexible to every learner's needs. Take a community approach. Involve all stakeholders in your classroom community. I think one of the keys to this is a lot of times you see maybe a teacher only teaching to the middle, or this teacher only teaches to the top 10, or this teacher only teaches to the bottom 10 as far as score levels go, where you should be focusing on the whole classroom, obviously. Building an inclusive school culture with equity of access to knowledge. Um, Understanding deficits will eliminate excuses. Identifying deficits and strengths will allow you to raise expectations for every student. Customizing learning for students with deficits and strengths will support access in the future. Collaboration is important to ensure students' success and expectations are standard across the board. The value of inclusive education. Uh, This is coming from the Open Society Foundation. Inclusive education provides better education for all students and ensures that students have a sense of belonging in the community. Elements of inclusive education include use of teaching assistants or specialists, inclusive curriculum, and parental involvement, which is one thing that we chase a lot in my area is parental involvement. How to advance inclusive education, proper training for teachers, adequate funding, empowered community, and government accountability. Creating inclusive schools for all students. Um, this is from the Superintendent Association. Inclusive needs Inclusion needs to be prioritized as a restructuring of the school and school system to be effective. All students, regardless of ability level, disability, or behavior issue, should be in the same general education classroom. Support should be brought through the students, and all support should be offered to all students. Not only should all students be in the general education classroom, they should all be encouraged and supported to do the best and to participate in the classroom community. I feel like in a normal classroom, that looks like having three different options of how they can complete their work: walking around in the back, sitting at a desk, standing up, laying down. That's kind of how I run my classroom, and it seems to work out for me. Tips on creating an inclusive school and why it matters. Inclusivity is a shared responsibility. Teacher collaboration is key. Behavior management should be a school wide initiative, and that can be a barrier in itself to get so many staff members on the same page as far as behavior management. All stakeholders should be involved. Always involve your parents. There should be a strong connection with the community, and schools must be willing to innovate. Um, that concludes the article summaries. Here are my response to the prompts. How are the following defined? Inclusive school culture. Inclusive schools are places where students, regardless of ability, race, language, and income, are integral members of the classroom, feel a connection to their peers, have access to rigorous and meaningful general education curricula, and receive collaborative support to succeed. Education. The Future Learn article defines inclusive education as follows. We can define inclusive education as a teaching model whereby all students, regardless of their ability, learn together in one environment. Leadership. As stated in the article, Inclusive Leadership in Education, an inclusive leadership model is built on the premise that all people are entitled to basic human rights. Inclusive leadership follows attitudes and actions that take conscious steps to break down barriers for people at risk of being discriminated against and excluded from society. Inclusive leaders also avoid a traditional hierarchy leadership approach and encourage full community participation in the life of a school or education system. And an inclusive culture starts from the premise that everyone in the school, students, educators, administrators, support staff, and parents should feel that they belong, realize their potential, and contribute to the life of the school. What is a school leader's role in maintaining this culture? What do you do if it doesn't exist? The school leader is first and foremost to embody the inclusive culture that they seek to create. And I think that's with any rule or prerogative or something like that a leader has. You need to be the one walking and showing and telling everybody how to do this. Leaders should share their vision with stakeholders early and often to foster the same goal in the community. School leaders must remain resolute in their mission to foster inclusion, and consistency is key to any vision. A consistent leader displays firm stability in their mission. An advocate is a person who empowers their students. They give advice, encouragement, or a listening ear. It's an individual that lets a student know that they have someone who believes in them and who is there for them. What support can a school leader provide to encourage advocacy? A school leader, once again, should display the change they want to see in the institution. School leaders can provide support to encourage advocacy by being the advocate the students need, providing professional development opportunities focused towards social emotional learning and inclusion, and encouraging advocacy throughout their staff. What plans and strategies can be implemented to ensure the equitable treatment of students and or staff in an inclusive culture? Teachers should receive proper training, valuable PDs, adequate staffing should be provided, collaboration time should be prioritized, data should be collected and analyzed by the entire staff altogether. Stakeholders should be given a voice and power, and consistent high expectations should be held for all stakeholders. What steps can a school leader take to change the negative assumptions that affect teaching and learning in an inclusive culture? A school leader can change negative assumptions by being the change they want to see, as I've answered multiple times in different formats. As a leader, you should always lead from the front, never expect anybody to do what you aren't willing to do yourself. Always modeling best behaviors for all community members sets a precedent for success as a leader. Uh, Concluding thoughts, my correlation. Through the required reading and the following assignment, I have a better understanding of how to promote the current and future success and well being of each student and adult by applying the knowledge, skills, and commitments necessary to develop and maintain a supportive, equitable, culturally responsive, and inclusive school culture. My educational leadership skills have grown through this assignment by enlightening me to exactly what inclusion can and should look like in a school system. My slideshow promoted the current and future success and well being of each student and adult by establishing a basis for conclusion in my school system and promoting the need for an inclusive education. Relevancy. This assignment was relevant to my learning because previously I had never extended the idea of inclusion in the classroom past students with disabilities. This impacted my mindset by bringing to light the inclusive practices I already follow and by pointing out where I can still use some work. I've always been a huge advocate for having every learner in my room whenever possible, regardless of what they have going on. Though the last school year, through the last school year, 4 students were placed in the alternative school and had a choice to gain back a class, chose my class, and my administration played a large role in allowing students to earn back classes and supports using my class as an award. I do believe that the community would support a more inclusive school culture if the idea were brought to light and presented to them. Personal reflection. This assignment has successfully opened my eyes to the idea of an inclusive education as a restructuring of current norms within school districts. As a future leader, I will inform and involve stakeholders in a process of creating a more inclusive school system. To promote well-being, I will provide a platform in which diverse groups have a voice to talk about the issues they need. I would also lead an initiative to create a more inclusive school in which all students are held to high standards, both behaviorally and academically, and are provided with proper support to meet those expectations. There are always difficulties with changing mindsets about old institutions. I anticipate political backlash as well as difficulty gaining support and getting the entire staff on board with school-wide expectations. And here are my references. Thank you guys for watching my video. I can't wait to meet some of you in class and get through this work together and hopefully work together in the future. Have a great day.